Hello, my peeps. Today's Algebra Nation podcast will be on workbook page 33 and part of 34. Let's get jiggy with it.
In this video, we're going to solve equations with fractions. Now, wait. We're going to remove them. We're going to get rid of them. They're going to go bye-bye. But in order to do this, we need to practice a skill. In order to do this skill, I need you to follow along. So in this case, we have 12 times 3/4. What I want you to do is ask yourself, 4 goes into 12 how many times? 4 goes into 12 3 times. So 4 would go into 12 3 times. That would simplify. And then we would have 3 times 3 equals 9.
If you don't want to do the problem that way, put a denominator of 1 underneath the 12. Do top times top, bottom times bottom. Multiplying fractions ain't a problem. And then simplify, and you still will get 9. Your choice, either way, will work.
No more fraction. It's done. It's gone. We have removed it. Now, really what happened was, if you remember, the other way to actually simplify this is to make it 12 over 1. Then you have 12 times 3 is 36. 1 times 4 is 4. And 36 divided by 4 is 9. But I don't want to do that. I want to do this skill again. 4 goes into 12 3 times.
Excuse me. Pick the way that's easier for you. This way or that way.
3 times 3 will give you 9. That's how I want you to simplify fractions now. And I want you to try it. Here's 3 for you to try with that same skill. Get ready to pause. Pause the video. Give these 3 a try. Pause now. Of course, if you pause with that in the corner, you can only do 2 of these, I understand, okay? But let's do all 3 of these. Here we go. 5 goes into 10 how many times? 5 goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 4 will give you 8. No more fraction. It's gone. 7 goes into 21. Ooh, negative 21. Well, 7 goes into 21 3 times, so 7 will go into negative 21 negative 3 times. And negative 3 times 3 will give you negative 9. And then on the bottom, 4 goes into 4 1 time, and 1 times 3 will give you 3. So did you see how none of these answers have any fractions? We're going to do the same thing to get rid of fractions for any equation. We're going to do the same thing. So you're going to notice, for beast equations like the ones below,
Ding! Boys and girls, it's time to turn your page in your workbook. Thank you.
the way we're going to solve these first is, you see denominators? We're going to remove them. We're going to multiply by the lowest common denominator that will get rid of the fractions. For this first equation, we're going to solve for c. I see fractions. I want to remove them. I need the lowest common denominator. So what is the lowest common denominator between 3, 6, and 2? Between 3, 6, and 2, the lowest common denominator is 6. If you said 12, that's a common denominator. If you would have said 24, that's a common denominator. But we're going to do the lowest common denominator. But if you did any common denominator, we would still be able to get the same answer. But we're just going to do the lowest common denominator. So we're going to multiply all this by 6 and remove the denominators. So check this out. Given the same equation, we multiply it all by 6. And we distribute to each term. So every single term gets multiplied by 6. And we're going to reduce all of them. And then after we reduce, we get the final equation below. But let's see how this equation came about. Starting with the first term, negative 4/3c times 6. If you notice, 3 would go into 6 2 4c times 2 is negative 8c. 6 goes into 6 one time. Negative 7 times 1 minus 7 equals 2 goes into 6 3 times. Negative 7 times 3 is negative 21. And negative 2c times 6 is minus 12c. Pause the video for a second, write that all down, pause, and write that all down. From here, I'm going to get my variables to one side, my numbers to the other, and divide if needed. So get my variables to one side, I like to get my variables to the left, but remember, you just have to get them to one side or the other. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and add 12c to both sides. Notice I'm lining up the like terms. Here, negative 8c plus 12c is 4c, minus 7 equals negative 21. The 12c is canceled. I move my variables to one side, now I'll move my numbers to the other. Here, I'm going to go ahead and add 7 to both sides. 4c, the 7's cancel. Negative 21 plus 7, oof. That's a big one, isn't it? Negative 21 plus 7. Let's bring out the little calculator here, because remember, you're allowed to use it. And we get, whoop,
Minus 10 for him. He's looking like the Bears did on Sunday.
that was kind of fun. Okay. 21, make it a negative. Right there. Plus 7, negative 14. So now we have negative 14. Lastly, what do I divide by? What do I divide by? I divide both sides by 4. Remember, you're trying to isolate c, and c will equal negative 14 over 4. Now in this case, negative 14 over 4, let's talk about this for a second. You have the answer. You're right. But you might not see the answer, because remember, you always want to reduce a fraction. So let's say you forget how to reduce. Well, remember, you can always take your calculator and start taking all the answers and reducing to match it up. What I mean is, you would take 14, make it a negative, divide by 4, and that would equal negative 3.5. So C equals negative 3.5. If the answers are decimals, then you're good. You just match it up. But if it's a fraction, you have to remember to reduce. So you can take all the answers and divide again until you get your answers to match up. The answer as a fraction would be negative 7 over 2 because these are divisible by 2. But if you wanted to, you went ahead and did negative 14 over 4 to get negative 3.5. You can take the answer choice. 7, make it a negative, divide it by 2, and you also get negative 3.5 to match it up. So remember, this is going to help out a lot when you're taking this exam. But let's do another one. Actually, not let's. By let's, I mean you.
Before you do it, let's take a brain break for a moment, please. Swag. Hopefully the Bears can do that this Sunday against New Orleans. Not sure, but I'm sure hoping. Okay.
I want you to try this one. So get ready. Pause the video in just a second. I'll circle the answer. That's also the answer. Ready? I'm going to pause the video. Try this. First thing I want you to do is get the lowest common denominator, multiply it all by the lowest common denominator to remove the denominators. Go ahead and pause now. What's the lowest common denominator? In this case, the lowest common denominator is 4. If you tried 8, that's a common denominator. That would work as well. We should still get the same answer, but the lowest common denominator is 4 between 2, 4, and 2. So next up, I'm going to multiply everything by 4. Negative k over 2 times 4 minus 2 times 4 equals negative 3/4 times 4 minus 6k times 4 plus 3/2 times 4. If you need to pause the video again to write that all down, please do so. 24k. 2 goes into 4 2 times, and 3 times 2 will give you 6. From here, we're going to go ahead and ready. We're going to combine like terms on each side, because I see I have like terms right here. And then I'll move my variables to one side, my numbers to the other, and divide. But first, let's combine like terms. So for this question, I've got negative 3 plus 6 will give you 3 minus 24k. And on the left-hand side, negative 2k minus 8. From here, I'll move my variables to one side. I have a minus 24k, so I'm going to add 24k to both sides. Negative 2k plus 24 will end up giving you 22k. Minus 8 equals 3. Those cancel. I move my variables to one side, I move my numbers to the other. Now I'll go ahead and add 8 to both sides. 22k, the 8's cancel, equals 11. And what do I divide both sides by? I divide them by 22. And k equals 11 over 22. But remember, you have to reduce fractions. Especially if you have a grid, you need to make sure you grid in the reduced form. 11 over 22, you can think of it like this. 11 goes into 22 2 times, just like we were doing that skill, but be careful, because the bigger number is on the bottom, it's on the denominator. So you could say 11 goes into 22 2 times, but the answer isn't 2. What is the answer? It's 1/2. So do be careful about that, okay? Be very careful about that. You would say that both these are divisible by 11, so the final answer would be k equals 1/2.
Study edge tip, plus 10. Da bears. 11 is half of 22. Nice.
There we go. So do be very careful when you're actually going ahead to simplify a fraction. And again, if it's a grid, you have to make sure you have the simplified form. So here we go.
No, we're not going anywhere but to the end of this video. Adios, amigos. Sayonara.